All right, folks, welcome back. It's been an absolutely mental week in the wizarding world. We've got John Lithgow doing beach magic as Dumbledore, Cornwall turning into a stormy movie set, Warner Brothers cashing in on 25 years of nostalgia, and a Nobel Prize inspired by Hermione's handbag. Yeah, that actually happened. So in this video, we're going deep, breaking down the leaks, the re-release, and the real-world wizardry making headlines. Hit like, subscribe, and let's get into it. All right, let's start with the story that broke the internet for Potter fans and skeptics alike. John Lithgow has officially been seen in full Dumbledore mode on the beach in Cornwall. And yeah, it's weirdly majestic. Early Wednesday morning, the 79-year-old American actor, who you probably know from The Crown, Dexter, or even Shrek, was spotted on location for HBO's Harry Potter reboot, transforming into none other than Professor Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore. This marks the first ever live-action glimpse of the reboot version of one of the most beloved characters in modern pop culture. And fans didn't waste a second reacting. John looked worlds away from himself, wearing the professor's long white hair, beard, and mustache, as well as his wizarding robes and glasses. That's from one of the on-site reports. And it's dead accurate. Lithgow's look is a bold mix of classic Dumbledore and eccentric period wizard chic. He's rocking a puff-sleeved blue shirt, a matching waistcoat with a gold pocket watch, and these velvet blue trousers that make him look like he just stepped out of a 19th century portrait painted by a Slytherin. And yes, all of this is happening on a windy Cornish beach, not Hogwarts. Crew members set up wind machines and raised cue cards with actual spells printed on them for Lithgow to read from. Imagine filming Harry Potter like a live Shakespeare rehearsal, with production assistants waving around laminated Expelliarmus cards in the rain. At one point, Lithgow was even seen clutching his waist, grimacing in pain, maybe mid-spell, maybe just reacting to the Atlantic breeze. Either way, the shots looked intense. He filmed intense scenes walking along the beach in the shallow ocean water before he was spotted clutching his waist and looking in pain. Between takes, he reportedly chilled on the sand, reading his lines, laughing with the crew, and occasionally raising his hands dramatically like he was summoning the tide. Now, if you're wondering, why the beach? Why Dumbledore here? That's the big question. This location isn't from the Philosopher's Stone as we know it. The most likely explanation? HBO's reimagining the early scenes to expand Dumbledore's presence, showing what he was doing behind the scenes while Harry's story began. In the films, Dumbledore mostly popped up in mysterious cameos, appearing at Privet Drive or Hogwarts. But in a long-form TV version, it makes sense they'd give him more screen time and emotional build-up. Maybe this beach is part of a flashback, or a moment showing Dumbledore searching for magical disturbances before Hagrid finds Harry. And Lithgow himself hinted that this role wasn't an easy yes. I just got the phone call up at the Sundance Film Festival, and it was not an easy decision because it's going to define me for the last chapter of my life. I'm afraid, but I'm very excited. Some wonderful people are turning their attention back to Harry Potter. That's why it's been such a hard decision. I'll be about 87 years old at the wrap party, but I've said yes. That's classic Lithgow. Humble, dry, and just the right mix of terrified and thrilled. This is a huge deal too because Dumbledore's legacy has always been carried by absolute legends. First, the late Richard Harris, who brought gravitas and gentleness to the role before his tragic passing after Chamber of Secrets. Then Michael Gambon, who took over until 2023, when he too passed away. And let's not forget Jude Law's younger version in Fantastic Beasts. Lithgow stepping into those robes means HBO isn't just recasting, they're redefining, and it's already paying off. Early fan reactions online have been shockingly positive, even from people skeptical about the reboot in general. One fan on X wrote, "I'm speechless. John Lithgow as Dumbledore is already perfect." Another said, "He looks like Richard Harris when he played Dumbledore." I'm so excited. And one particularly funny take compared him to Merlin. Not a shade, though. He looks good. You can't buy that kind of goodwill. Even Slash Film pointed out that Lithgow's look captures that old-school magic Harris had. Warm, wise, a little fragile. Not the aggressive battle wizard we saw in later films. If the HBO show is indeed going for something closer to the book's softer, more eccentric Dumbledore, then Lithgow is a surprisingly brilliant choice. Behind the camera, things are just as elite. Succession showrunner Francesca Gardner and Game of Thrones director Mark Mylod are running the show. That means high drama, long dialogue scenes, and hopefully zero weird CGI fights. The leaks confirm Lithgow's not just standing around, he's performing. The spell cards, the close-ups, the wind machines, all point to a dramatic sequence meant to reintroduce Dumbledore as the moral and emotional anchor of this universe. So yeah, seeing him ankle-deep in the surf might look odd now, but give it time. HBO's clearly setting up something big. And if you ask me, Lithgow's already halfway to an Emmy. If you're loving these leaks so far, drop a like on the video and subscribe. It really helps out. Now let's talk about what's happening beyond Dumbledore. Because the rest of the Cornwall set has been an absolute circus of leaks, lockdowns, and plot changes. We're talking about the entire fishing village of Cadgwith on the Lizard being transformed into a full-blown wizarding world. Locals literally woke up to film trucks, security guards, fog machines, and sprinklers turning their peaceful harbor into a rainy nightmare straight out of Prisoner of Azkaban. And the descriptions sound massive. They've got Dominic McLaughlin, the brand new Harry Potter chosen out of 32,000 hopefuls, filming alongside Belle Powley as Aunt Petunia, Amos Kitson as Dudley, and Daniel Rigby as Uncle Vernon. And the scene? It's the Dursleys' dramatic escape from Privet Drive. Except HBO's going way darker with it. A dramatic scene was staged involving a car surrounded by fishing boats and extras in traditional sou'westers. Rain was simulated using sprinklers and water sprays. Vernon Dursley paced around the vehicle before picking up what looked like a broomstick wrapped in paper. Except that broomstick is actually a gun. Something totally new for the franchise. Update. New photos from set show more of this scene. Vernon Dursley buys a gun before taking Petunia, Dudley, and Harry to the hut on the rock. This is HBO flexing its creative freedom, filling in gaps that the book and movie skipped. In the original Philosopher's Stone, Vernon just somehow had a gun. Here, we actually see how he got it. From a fisherman who rents him the remote cottage. It's one of those tiny continuity patches that hardcore fans secretly love. Filming reportedly started at the Cadgwith Cove Inn before moving to the beach. They closed the entire village to traffic, stationed marshals in high-vis jackets to block photographers, and even used umbrellas and cars to shield the actors from drones and lenses. Despite all that, locals and fans still managed to catch glimpses. And yeah, the photos went viral within hours. Dominic McLaughlin, drenched in fake rain, was seen sitting in the car, looking nervous, while Belle Powley clutched her handbag in the front seat. Daniel Rigby, meanwhile, stomped around the car like a man on the edge. Total Dursley energy. A source on set said that morale dipped early on thanks to, of all things, ticks and horseflies. Apparently, the Windsor Park shoot was infested, and crew were warned to cover up and check for bites. Only in a billion-dollar production could you have actors fighting bugs in between takes of wizardry. Bites from ticks and horseflies on day one didn't put everyone in the best of moods. Still, the Cornwall shoot seems to have gone smoother, just wetter. The fake storm effects looked intense, and according to SFF Gazette, the new material might expand Harry's backstory with the Dursleys, giving their paranoia and cruelty more context before Hagrid bursts in. That's actually clever storytelling. If Season 1 really devotes 8-hour-long episodes to Philosopher's Stone, these extra moments can make Harry's journey feel way more lived in. The security, though, is next level. The production's been using code words to disguise itself. First dark train, now brown cat. Phones are banned, and internal messages vanish after being read once. That's like MI6 meets Hogwarts. And HBO's clearly going all in on scale. Beyond Cornwall, they've built a £4 million replica of Hogsmeade Station at Windsor Park, complete with half a mile of train track where the Hogwarts Express has already been spotted steaming through the forest. Nearby, Forest Lodge, the future home of the Prince and Princess of Wales. So yeah, the royals probably got a sneak peek before any of us. Every bit of this production screams cinematic reboot, not cheap TV spin-off. Showrunner Francesca Gardner of Succession fame and director Mark Mylod, Game of Thrones, The Menu, are steering the project, with J.K. Rowling officially listed as executive producer, despite the ongoing controversy around her. Speaking of that, Rowling herself tweeted, "I read the first 2 episodes of the forthcoming HBO Harry Potter series, and they are so good." HBO backed her publicly too, saying, "We are proud to once again tell the story of Harry Potter, the heartwarming books that speak to the power of friendship, resolve, and acceptance." Say what you want, but the reboot's writing team is stacked, and this Cornwall shoot proves they're not afraid to push the story into darker, more cinematic territory. Between the gun, the rainstorm, and the code word lockdown, the production feels like a spy thriller more than a kid's fantasy. And that's probably what HBO wants. Harry Potter for a prestige TV generation. So yeah, the leaks might have spoiled some surprises, but they've also made one thing clear. This isn't a lazy remake, it's a full-scale reimagining. Same foundation, new DNA. 25 years of Harry Potter. Back to the theaters. Again. Just when you thought Warner Brothers couldn't squeeze another galleon out of Hogwarts nostalgia, they went and did it. Next year, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, or Philosopher's Stone depending on where you live, turns 25 years old, and the studio is going full golden snitch mode. To honor the milestone, Warner Brothers is deploying a year-long celebration across all divisions of the media company. That means global theatrical re-releases, limited edition merch, retail tie-ins, new anniversary logos, the works. The company even designed a special 25th anniversary logo that evokes the magical glow of a Patronus. Because of course it does. This anniversary not only celebrates the legacy of the original film, but also introduces the magic to a new generation. Let's be real. This is corporate wizardry 101. It's smart, because the timing is suspiciously perfect. The reboot TV series hits HBO in 2027, and the theatrical re-release hits 2026. It's not just nostalgia, it's strategy. Warner Brothers is using the anniversary to reignite emotional connection right before they ask fans to accept a whole new cast. And there's plenty to celebrate. The 2001 film made $974 million worldwide, kicked off a $7.7 billion franchise, and turned 3 unknown kids, Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, and Rupert Grint, into generational icons. Now 25 years later, that same film's returning to cinemas so fans can watch it on the big screen again. Or for the first time. According to Deadline, it's not just a one-night event. It's part of a year-long global campaign that ties into major Potter moments. Butterbeer season, March to May. Harry's birthday, July. Back to Hogwarts, August to September. And of course, Christmas in the wizarding world, because nothing says festive like a kid almost dying from a chess set. But let's be honest. 25 years later, the Sorcerer's Stone still hits. It's pure early 2000s comfort cinema. Slightly awkward acting, a warm color palette, and John Williams music that makes every shot feel like childhood bottled in a theme. And that's why the re-release is such a big deal. It's not just a rerun. It's a way for the franchise to remind people that before the controversies, before the prequels, before the recasts, this was magic. The movie that gave us Quidditch, The Great Hall, Diagon Alley, and of course, that first glimpse of Dumbledore under the lamppost. All of that, back on the big screen in 2026, just before John Lithgow's version takes over. So if you're wondering why Warner Brothers is celebrating now, simple. They're recharging the nostalgia battery right before they hit play on a brand new decade of Hogwarts content. It's not just back to Hogwarts, it's back to the bank. And finally, we're ending this video on something totally unexpected but kind of amazing. Because this week, Harry Potter literally made it into a Nobel Prize speech. 3 scientists, Susumu Kitagawa, Richard Robson, and Omar Yagi, just won the 2025 Nobel Prize in Chemistry for developing something called metal organic frameworks. These are new materials that can trap and store massive amounts of gas in a tiny space. And how did the Nobel Committee explain it? With a Harry Potter reference. The frameworks included new materials that store large amounts of gas in a tiny volume, almost like Hermione's handbag in Harry Potter. That's not a meme. That's the actual official comparison from the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences. They literally said, like Hermione's handbag, the one that's magically bigger on the inside. Heiner Linke, chair of the Nobel Committee, went even further. The laureate's discoveries led to completely new materials that can store huge amounts of gas in a tiny volume. He added that these molecular frameworks can be compared to Hermione's handbag and even described them as rooms in a hotel where molecules can come and go like guests. It's science with a sense of humor and a surprisingly good analogy. So yeah, Hermione Granger's undetectable extension charm just became the metaphor for real-world molecular chemistry. And it makes sense. These materials can literally absorb carbon dioxide, harvest water from desert air, and store toxic gases. That's wizardry that could actually fight climate change. The frameworks may look small on the outside, but are able to hold surprisingly vast quantities within them. The trio's work started decades ago. Richard Robson, a professor at the University of Melbourne, came up with the concept in the late 80s by linking metal atoms and organic molecules into complex 3D structures, like molecular scaffolding. Then Susumu Kitagawa and Omar Yagi refined it, turning it into materials stable enough to actually use in the real world. Today, there are over 100,000 variations of these frameworks being tested, from filtering water to breaking down toxic chemicals. Kitagawa said during the announcement, "My dream is to capture air and separate air. For instance, CO2, or oxygen, or water, and convert this to useful materials using renewable energy. That's insane, in the best way. Real-life scientists using magic bag physics to solve climate problems. If that doesn't prove the cultural power of Harry Potter, nothing does. And honestly, it's the most positive Potter headline we've had all year. After months of controversy around the reboot and Rowling's comments, it's refreshing to see the franchise name show up in a story about innovation and progress instead of arguments on social media. So, yeah, this week Harry Potter managed to dominate headlines in every possible universe. Pop culture with Lithgow's Dumbledore leaks. Film with the 25th anniversary re-release. And science, with Hermione's handbag inspiring a Nobel analogy. That's range. All right, that's your full roundup of Hogwarts chaos and scientific sorcery. Which story blew your mind more? Lithgow's beach wizardry, the Dursleys with a gun, or the Hermione-inspired Nobel Prize? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I'm diving in and replying to as many as I can. Smash that like button, subscribe for more Harry Potter news, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next update. See you next time. Peace.